After discussing skinwalkers in the last video, I thought it would be helpful to address Skinwalker Ranch. I first heard about Skinwalker Ranch back in 2019 when I went to a conference about UFOs and aliens in Branson, Missouri. The presentation on skinwalkers was by investigative journalist George Knapp, who wrote the book Hunt for the Skinwalker, which was published in 2005, together with Colm Kelleher. Knapp focuses on the paranormal, particularly UFOs, which ties in with skinwalkers. Knapp seems to regard skinwalker as an umbrella term that covers a host of supernatural phenomena, like the spooky activity that took place at Skinwalker Ranch. Skinwalker Ranch is a 512-acre property located in northeast Utah at the center of the Uinta Basin, which is a paranormal hotspot for UFOs. Its name is taken from the Skinwalker, a malevolent witch in the Navajo legend who is renowned for shapeshifting. Skinwalkers attain these powers through a series of dark occult rituals, which includes murdering a family member and eating their flesh. Skinwalkers are connected to dark spirits, and they can curse others and cause illness. They can also enter and corrupt people's minds, causing them to go insane and do terrible things. Respectively, it seems that they astral project and possess other people's bodies. Skinwalker Ranch is surrounded by an Indian reservation, and these indigenous people have historically regarded the area where Skinwalker Ranch is located as cursed and dangerous. These native Indians are reluctant to talk about skinwalkers or even say the name Skinwalker because they believe that this evokes or summons these infernal critters.
Legend has it supernatural activities occur on a piece of land surrounded by the Ute Indian Reservation in Utah's Uinta Basin.
It is the most scientifically studied paranormal hotspot on the planet.
It seems best to start the story from when the Shermans, Terry and Gwen and their 2 children, bought the property in 1994. They were so looking forward to their new life on the exquisite ranch, but as it transpired, their dream home became their living nightmare. After less than 2 years, they were psychologically wrecked. The powers of darkness almost destroyed them. Here's Knapp's recap.
By this time, that rancher and his family had lived on the ranch for 20 months, and they were so scared that he, his wife, and his 2 kids were all sleeping at night on the floor in the same room because it had messed with them so badly. Their property had had ghost-type activity, poltergeist kind of things, trickster activity.
Whilst the former owners, the Myers, didn't report anything supernatural, the ranch was fortified with locks and chains and bars on the doors and the windows, and even the cupboards, which the Shermans found odd when they first moved in. Not long after they moved in, strange incidents began to occur. The first strange encounter was when a huge wolf-like creature approached the ranch. This beast was very muscular with grey fur and blue eyes. The family surmised the wolf was tame because it wandered up to them and even let them pet it. But then the wolf attacked a calf, which prompted the family to shoot the wolf. They shot the wolf several times, but the wolf was unfazed and simply stared at them. It seemed the wolf was bulletproof. As the wolf nonchalantly walked away, Mr. Sherman followed it to kill it, but after a mile or so it vanished, and so did its tracks. Perhaps this weird wolf was a skinwalker. The following weeks, there were more sightings of strange canines. The family also noticed that inanimate objects became animate, like frying pans and spatulas would move, and piles of wood and fence poles. Mrs. Sherman would go shopping and place the groceries from the shopping bags into the cupboards, and then she would go back into the kitchen moments later, and she'd find that all the items were back in the shopping bags. Doors and cabinets would open and close on their own. Presumably that's why the Myers placed locks on them. And things started to go missing, like Mrs. Sherman would take a shower, leaving her towel and her hairbrush in the cabinet, and these would vanish. On one occasion she found her hairbrush in the freezer. These incidents happened frequently. On another occasion, Mr. Sherman was using a post-hole digger, and after a trip to the bathroom, he returned to find the digger was missing. He eventually found it 2 weeks later, stuck high up a cottonwood tree. This is typical poltergeist activity. Trickster spirits, as the name suggests, are renowned for playing tricks on their victims, like they move items. Apparently they enjoy messing with us. One of the craziest stories of this kind was when the family's 4 prized bulls were moved from the corral into a metal trailer. Thus, the family left the bulls in the corral, and when they returned home a short while later, they discovered they were missing. After they exhaustedly looked everywhere, they eventually found them crammed inside the trailer. They related that the bulls were in a trance-like state, and when they came round, they bolted out the trailer, breaking the door down as they went. It seemed the bulls were teleported into the trailer because they didn't enter through the door, which remained chained up. It seems the bulls dematerialized and then rematerialized. The family always felt like they were being watched from the moment they moved into the ranch. This was evidenced by the shadows and shapes they seen outside their windows and the heavy footsteps that they heard. These footsteps were then heard inside their house, including inside their bedroom at the bottom of their beds. They heard disembodied voices mocking them and laughing at them. These voices were above their heads, but they couldn't see anything. There were invisible creatures who they could detect when these otherwise invisible entities would walk through their cattle or walk through water. An astral mist was seen multiple times, which is a ghostly manifestation. The family also experienced violent identical dreams, which entailed seeing dark humanoid beings who would leave physical marks on their bodies. This is unquestionably demonic activity. Some of their cattle also went missing, and others were killed and mutilated with surgical precision. Thousands of cattle mutilations have been reported since the 1950s, and they're linked with UFOs and aliens. It seems cattle are removed, presumably by a UFO, and mutilated elsewhere, and then they're returned to their original position, because blood is never spilled. Like the Shermans, other ranchers report that parts of the cattle are removed, including ears, eyeball, jaw flesh, tongue, lymph nodes, genitals, and rectum. It's widely believed in UFO circles that there's a breeding program taking place. All the cats in the ranch were also mutilated. The family also began to encounter strange lights in UFOs, including classic silver discs. Orbs would abruptly appear and disappear. They observed white, red, blue and orange orbs, which would scare them and their animals. The orange orbs would create portals with a different looking sky, and black creatures would fly in and out. Sometimes orbs would split in two and then come together again. Here's footage of two orbs fusing together.
Did you see what happened in North Carolina? Two mysterious orbs appeared in the sky and then fused into one.
The Shermans' neighbours, their fellow ranchers, reported the same kinds of phenomena, including cattle mutilations, UFOs and balls of light. The Shermans also reported seeing black helicopters, which led Mr. Sherman to wonder if the US secret government was involved. The Shermans also related that one day a man showed up to their ranch who explained that he was drawn to their property and had driven hundreds of miles to get there. He asked if he could please meditate on the land, and whilst the Shermans found his request odd, they let him. Not long after the man began chanting, he heard a cowbell ring, and then he seen something opaque moving in the brush. Knapp explains the creature was invisible and camouflaged, but you could see its movement, like the Predator in the movie Predator that came out in 1987. Here's a short clip so you get the idea. The opaque creature roared like a lion in the man's face, and the man freaked out and bolted. It seems the movie Predator is inspired by skinwalkers. As it transpired then, after 20 months in 1996, the family were officially done, and they sold their ranch to billionaire Robert Bigelow, who is particularly interested in paranormal activity. Bigelow set up a research team, a scientific advisory board and think tank, namely NIDS, which is National Institute for Discovery Science, to investigate the paranormal happenings at the ranch. NIDS were tasked to address two basic questions, namely, is there life elsewhere in the universe, and does consciousness survive death? NIDS installed cameras and detection equipment to watch the ranch 24/7, although some of these cameras were destroyed, presumably by the dastardly Skinwalker or his demonic allies. These researchers also encountered mysterious lights, UFOs of all shapes and sizes, and mutilated cattle. On one occasion, two investigators who were accompanied by 3 dogs encountered a blue orb that hovered in front of them. The dogs were jumping up and down, trying to bite the orb, and then they chased after the orb. The dogs went out of sight behind the brush. Then the investigators heard disturbing yelps, followed by silence. They went to where the dogs were, and they discovered 3 large brown circles of greasy goo. It appeared the dogs were vaporized. On another occasion, 2 researchers, who were again accompanied by dogs, encountered a dark cloud that loomed over their heads and floated across the trees. The frightened dogs hid behind the researchers' legs as the dark cloud stopped in front of them. One of the scientists was frozen to the spot, and another voice spoke through him. The demonic entity who took control of his body said, "We are watching you." According to Knapp, that researcher is still psychologically damaged by that event. Channeling is demonic activity, period. It's also interesting that the research team reaffirmed that meditation triggers events or contact, because this corresponds to Dr. Stephen Greer's Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind initiative. Greer takes people out to the desert to meditate, to engage with our so-called interstellar space brothers. They telepathically invite UFOs to come, and they often do. Meditation to induce an altered state of consciousness is a demonic practice that opens people up to the spiritual realm, replete with so-called aliens. Respectively, on another occasion, 2 researchers observed a yellow light which manifested at an area where one of the researchers had been meditating. This light expanded and became a tunnel, and a black humanoid creature, circa 8 foot tall, crawled out and ran away. Then the light folded in on itself and vanished.
And two guys are up on Skinwalker Ridge looking down. They've got infrared equipment watching. And one of them with the infrared sees what looks like a dirty snowball of light just hovering a couple of feet off the ground. And he walkie-talkies these guys down there. Hey, do you see it? Yeah, we see it. It's kind of vague. Then he says, hey, something's happening. It's changing.
Our guys are on a ridge line looking down, and you see a light appear above the ground, expand.
This ball of light was stretching out. It became a tunnel of light. Into this tunnel comes a humanoid figure.
Some kind of monster reach up, pull his shoulders, and come out.
7 or 8 feet tall, black, featureless. When it gets out, the tunnel collapses into a ball again. It was almost as if it was a dimensional tunnel, but it was coming from some other reality.
Dark humanoid creatures emerging from a portal and then scarpering was not uncommon. The researchers highlighted that these events were accompanied by a sulfuric odour and radiation. The smell of sulphur is associated with demons, like it's often reported at seances, but according to Pastor Beth Tucker, it also indicates a portal to hell.
Yeah.
So, we had the smell of sulfur.
Yeah.
And Kim Daniels, I think I had said that on that video, she said that is a portal to hell when you have that smell. And I thought,
Oh,
great.
Jesus.
Yeah, but I didn't find that out till years later. So I thought, man, we lived where there was a portal. But anyway.
As it transpired, the paranormal activity died down after 1999. Knapp suggests that the Skinwalker got bored of playing with him. Then, following the publication of Knapp's book in 2005, the Pentagon got involved from 2008 to 2010. NIDS was replaced by the Advanced Aerospace Weapon Systems Applications Program, OSAP, who were tasked to study UFOs and Skinwalker Ranch. Interestingly, all the researchers at OSAP experienced poltergeist activities at their homes. It seems their work followed them home. Like one of the researchers watched a wine bottle fly across his room, and one of their family members was battered black and blue. Bigelow sold the property 20 years later in 2016 to skeptical Brandon Fugel, who endeavoured to uncover natural explanations for its mysteries. However, 6 months in, and Fugel witnessed a large silver disc, which he couldn't explain.
Brandon Fugel bought the land 5 years ago and brought in a team of scientists to see if the legend was true.
You know, I bought the ranch as a healthy skeptic. I had never seen a UFO, a ghost, an orb, or anything of the sort.
Fugel claims that he and his team have experienced unexplained phenomenon.
We saw a 40, 50-foot long silver disc hovering right above the mesa, right in front of us. This wasn't just a blinking light in the sky or something that was a little bit ambiguous. This was a solid object that appeared out of nowhere, and in fact over about a 20-second period performed maneuvers that I believe defy any propulsion physics that we're acquainted with.
Before we finish here, I'll mention one last story because Nat mentioned it at the conference, and I remember thinking it was the craziest story. Thus, Nat related that one night there were 2 cops who were scouting out the ranch, and they spied 2 figures who were circa 6 foot tall with their backs towards the road. They were wearing trench coats and smoking cigarettes, but when they turned round, they were dogs. These dog men and their trench coats vanished, but they left their cigarettes, which fell to the ground and continued burning. In summary, it seems Skinwalker Ranch is a portal, a hive of demonic activity. And it's interesting that only animals were harmed because it suggests that perhaps the dark forces were not allowed to harm people. Like Satan could test Job, God's faithful servant, but he was prohibited from taking his life. I also surmise that billionaire Bigelow knows what's going on, because it's purported that no one becomes a billionaire unless they're in the Luciferian Club. Thus, it's interesting that Bigelow was researching both consciousness and UFOs, as these two fields of research are coming together. The Vatican is driving this agenda to prepare the way for the one world religion. I'll finish here with some of my paintings of wormholes, tunnels, orbs and portals, because why not? It can give you a moment to reflect on our insane existence. Interestingly, in the second last painting, you can see a real orb at the bottom of the picture. The last painting depicts the dark tunnel, the valley of the shadow of death, that we each pass through when our life here on earth has ended. However, suffice to say, not everyone sees the light at the end, and where you end up is your choice. In Psalm 23, verse 4, David said, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me."